Hey guys, my name's Colin, and today I'm going to show you to make a table out of pallet wood. This one here is a beer pong table. This one here is a coffee table of sorts, something that you would want to bring inside the house. You can make either or with this sort of technique. And we chose pallet wood because it's the cheapest material you can get, it's very workable, and probably the most forgiving you can find as well. So this is a basic pallet here. It's actually a little longer than normally would be, but it still has the basic components of 2x4s and the miscellaneous size slats all throughout. These are broken apart pretty easily. And once you do that, you'll get some good stuff like this. These are about 6x1s, and you get some 2x4s as well in many sizes. You'll need to get a lot of pallets because you're gonna need a lot of scraps. The wood's very brittle in some cases because it's been outside for a long time. You're gonna get some splits straight down the middle, or you'll get some cracked veins like that. Altogether, you can't use this stuff really. Tooling for this project's pretty basic, nothing too fancy. You're gonna need some drill bits, something sharp, a decent tape measure that'll give you accurate measurements, sturdy hammer, and a drill. This one ends up dying halfway through, but it's part of it. And whatever hardware you'll use to fasten the planks together. These are the lag bolts that we use to attach the legs. Disassembling the pallet is done simply by prying up on the ends of the wood, the board rather, and lifting the nails out of it. This table is going to be long for the beer pong purpose, so we used the maximum length of the longest 2x4s that we could. And then all you had to do was cut the width pieces to size. Here's the final dimensions that came about after all the trimming had been completed. When fastening the frame parts together, it's important to pre-drill all the holes before screwing in the deck screws. Pre-drilling will help avoid splits in the wood. When using pallet wood, they're going to be flexed a little bit, so using the fasteners to help straighten the boards is going to be necessary. In this case, I just rammed them home and it helped to straighten out the pieces. This board I'm drilling in here actually did not get used because the flex was so bad it looked like a potato chip on the floor. So I swapped it out for a less desirable piece of wood, but it was straight. So after the frame is fastened together, give it a basic rundown on how level it is. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the more level it is, it's gonna make it easier later to attach the leg pieces. 24.5, I said. This part here is optional. It was decided that attaching extra length of wood to the end would be an interesting experiment in drilling out your own cup holder. And as you can see, if you were to fit a cup here, we'll drill a small hole in here and it will slide through the length of it and sit right there as an extra. So beyond that piece, attaching the top planks is a very formulaic process, just measuring each one to the precise length you want, cutting it, and then setting it atop to make sure that all the distances are correct. I only drilled 2 holes per end on the boards to attach it to the frame. This is plenty strong. This will probably never break. You could do 1 if you really wanted to just save on materials. So here the legs are just floating under the table. There's no hardware holding it in place. I had it this way so I could measure how tall I wanted the table. And since the legs will be holding the table upright, try to get the cuts to be as square as possible. Attaching the legs to this table only required 1 lag bolt per leg. This will be plenty strong to hold it upright. Also, before drilling, make sure you measure the hardware you're using so you don't over or under drill the hole. The fit's pretty tight, so I had to pound them in, but this was probably a better thing since the bolts will never leave the legs. There's a fair amount of thread left on the end of this bolt. If you were concerned about it snagging on something, you could trim off the excess thread and just smooth it out. The process is the same for each leg. Even though the boards I used are all miscellaneous sizes and shapes, the process is still the same. Once the legs are actually bolted into the table, you can get the level back out again and just verify that it's not too far off. This table turned out to be pretty good actually. And since there's only 1 bolt holding in each leg, before you actually tighten them down, you can sort of adjust them and get the level just right. and that's job done. You could surface the top of the boards by sanding them or putting some sort of a clear coat finish on them to preserve the wood, but in this case, the table is going to get wet and perhaps sticky, so we just left it raw. You can see here there's some slight undulations in the top deck of the table. This will, maybe stagger the cups an eighth of an inch from one another, but it's nothing that would hamper the game too much. You can see the cup holder there. A red cup will just slide right down the side of it. But don't let the ragged appearance of this table put you off. With a little bit of time, sandpaper, and maybe some lacquer, you can turn out a pretty nice table, like this one here.